Hey everybody, we're gonna wait for folks to roll in and then we'll go ahead to the final. I think we'll probably have everybody here. A little bit of time. Let's see, we'll probably just be waiting at this point on Donovan, but we'll use the regular amount of time we usually do for folks to roll in here. If you'd like, the sheet for the final is up on the agenda if you'd like to take a look at it, but we're definitely going to go over it together. I'm going to go all the way till 12:05 just to be safe. Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's see here. So if you want, go ahead and hit the link. I am also going to be pulling it up on my screen here so we can go through it together. Oh, excuse me. So this is going to be similar to a small project. Okay, there's going to be a lot of functionality that we're going to need to cover, but you have a good while to work on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the agenda for today. Okay, so as far as the specs for the final, we're going to get into that in just a second. The main thing here is it is due by 11:59, almost midnight on Thursday. That's November 5th, if I'm doing that math correctly in my head. So today's the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Yes, we should be fine. So I'll need to have this in my inbox by that time. After that time, well, it's tough to turn in a final late sometimes and get it graded on time for everything. In this case, you're going to be running through 3 different sets of data to validate the code that you're working on, and the code either works or it doesn't. Okay. If your code is not working, go ahead and send it in, but it's probably going to have some real issues as far as the grading side goes. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the final. Okay, when you get into the final itself, you'll see a picture of a container ship, and that's kind of what our project is going to be based around. Okay, you're going to be making a weight calculator that's going to be checking the weight as the ship comes in. The ship's going to get unloaded as much as possible. And then your job is to create a calculator that, after getting that weight coming in, which is called the laden weight, there's going to be some little bit of vocabulary here as it relates to what we're looking at. That laden weight is how much it comes in at. Then you'll need to calculate the dead weight. The dead weight is the amount that is for everything except for cargo. Okay, so that's passengers, crew, fuel, ballast, provisions, anything that they're going to have on the ship except for the cargo. Okay, so you have the laden weight, that's the whole ship as it comes in, that's everything on it. Then you're going to need to calculate the dead weight. That's going to be, well, let me just kind of run through this in order, I suppose. The 3 different types, since this is going to be kind of a prototype version of the weight calculator, the 3 different types we're going to see is a 50,000 ton ship, a 100,000 ton ship, and a 200,000 ton ship. Those are going to be classified as a small cargo, heavy cargo, and super heavy cargo. Okay. The weight, as soon as we have that, that'll tell us it'll be coming in at its laden weight. That's how much we can get up to. Okay, we can't go over that for sure. We're going to sink the thing. It's going to end up in the inlet, and no one's going to be able to get in or out of the dockyards because we've just sunk a ship and grounded it. And that means we have to go in with other ships, and it's going to take hours, if not days, to pull those things off if it's able to get away from the dock at all. So once you have that weight, that laden weight, we want to run some tests on the boats. Dead weight, we're going to assume some aspects of this problem with dead weight. And in general, this problem has been simplified a good bit. Really, to get the weight of a ship, we have to calculate the draft. We have to use Archimedes' principle to calculate displacement. There's going to be certain marks on the ship itself in the fore and the aft that are going to tell us how deep it's going. I'm making this a lot more simple for us. We're just going to have these basic weights that we have to look at. I'm not going to have you guys go in and have to figure out how far apart the laden marks are or anything like that. I'm just going to give you the values, and we can go from there. Okay. So dead weight consists of everything that's contained on the boat. As I said, crew, fuel, ballast, passengers, and then of course the cargo. We're going to assume dead weight to mean everything except for the cargo here, when we use the term dead weight and cargo weight to make these things easier. Okay, so we're going to be calculating cargo weight. Dead weight's going to stay the same for each one of these vessels. Dead weight is going to be 3/10 of the laden weight that we have here. So you want to calculate when it comes in. All right, it's 50,000 tons. Okay, let's figure out what 3/10 of that would be, and that's going to be our dead weight. That's what we're going to have on the ship no matter what. Okay. The main file is going to be where everything's taken in. We're going to get the input from the user, like, okay, is this a small, heavy, or super heavy cargo setup? We're going to, from that point, make our classes. We're going to make instances of classes. We need to create a class initially called basic ship, and the attributes for that are going to be name, cargo classification, which is pretty much what we see here. This is the cargo classification, the tonnage here that they're able to carry. Ship origin, you guys can decide that if you want to. China, Africa, Europe, US, Russia, whichever one you want, but each one should be different. So the 50,000 might be from China, the 100,000 might be from Africa, and the 200,000 might be from Russia. Who knows? But they need to have something different in each one of those. Lastly, the instance should have a value for dead weight. Okay, so we're going to read further along here to calculate dead weight. This is where we're going to make our directory and our first module inside that directory. So we're going to make ton calc inside a directory called doc tools. Okay, make sure that you spell doc tools just how I have it here, because that's going to be the directory I use for you if you're not providing a file directory for me. So if you're sending me just the main and the ton calc module, make sure you are referencing doc tools if you do any imports, which you're going to need to do. Okay. Inside the directory, you'll need any initialization files to cause the IDE to recognize the path to the module called toncalc. So make sure that's in yours. I'm going to include the initialization file and the doc tools folder whenever I get your two files, the toncalc and also the main file. Okay, if you're using Pythonista, those two at least, I'm going to need those. If you're using PyCharm, you can just send the whole project over. Shouldn't be a problem. All right, so dead weight. To get the dead weight, we're going to take the laden value of the incoming vessel, which could be 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. We're going to calculate 3/10 of that weight and classify that as dead weight. Okay, so whenever you're making your instance up here, we're going to need to have that calculation from this module fed into the instance. Whenever you make that instance of each one of these, we're going to need to have that dead weight classification, or the dead weight attribute. Then we can take that amount, subtract that from the laden weight, and that's how much cargo space we have. Okay, and we're going to need to make sure we keep track of that cargo space as we add cargo back on. Okay, so let's get into that part. So let's just assume we've brought it in, we've checked to see what the laden weight is, we've unloaded everything. Now we're back down to our dead weight, and then we're going to add in cargo. Okay, so I provided you with weights for the cargo here. So for testing, we're using basic values. This is basically a prototype that you're throwing together to show your boss, like, hey, I can do this for us. I can take care of these measurements. Let me do a real quick version of what we would have, and then we can expand from there. So this is a pretty stripped down version, and we're using averages, which are not typical with a lot of this stuff. We're just using this as an idea of how we can start building this. So what you guys are building is not the final product, it's a prototype. Okay, so that's why we're going to have some average numbers here. Okay, so new cargo is the name of one of the functions inside of TongueCalc. New cargo will create a series of typical cargo weights packages that will want to be added back to the ship and get it back to its standard carry or its laden carry weight. Okay, so standard carry, laden carry, that's going to be the same thing. Okay, let's see. The function new cargo should use a dictionary to hold on to typical cargo packages weights. That typical cargo weights and packages are available here. Okay, so you have these should be fed into a dictionary. You need to create a dictionary that contains these. I would recommend using a random number generator and then a random number key that is associated with each one of these, so that whenever you get new cargo coming in, basically it's just searching the dockyard for what's close by that we can add onto this ship that's going to be going back to where it's supposed to be going. So we're simulating that by this dictionary, just randomly grabbing one of these and feeding it back to our main, where our user is going to decide, is this a good cargo to put on the ship? Is it too much? Is it not going to be enough? We're going to get into that here in just a second. So these values should be returned to the main, where the user will see how much the new cargo will add to the standard carry tonnage without going over the laden amount that the ship arrived with. Okay, so every time we grab a new piece of cargo and we're evaluating it, the user should be able to see how much weight this new piece of cargo is going to include. Let's say, for instance, we're getting a heavy stack of 20-foot shipping containers. That's 300 tons. If we have 300 tons and we've still got 100,000, on for the ship, and our dead weight, let's say, is 30,000 tons, we've got a lot left over. So yeah, we can fit that on there, sure. So we should be able to see how much the cargo weighs, how much it's going to add to our current laden amount, like how much is that going to push us up. And then we should also be able to see, like, it probably needs to provide a warning. Hey, this is going to push us over if we're getting to that point. And that's probably not going to happen until we get up into the heavy stacks. You'll be able to pretty well judge how everything's going up to that point. So we're going to get the random value for these for the new cargo. We're going to get current cargo tonnage so we can see where we're at compared to our laden amount. We don't want to go over that laden amount. If the current cargo tonnage plus the deadweight tonnage goes over the laden tonnage, then that bit of cargo should not be loaded. That's basically what we need to let our user know. Don't go over that laden amount. And if the current cargo tonnage goes over it, then it should provide something saying like, hey, you can't put more on this boat than it's allowed to carry. Otherwise, it's going to hit ground and we're never going to get out of this inlet. Okay. So the user wants to try and get as close to that laden weight within 100 tons as possible. Okay. So you're just going to get random values. And once you hit that 100 tons, that's where you need to decide to either stay and see if you're going to get some more or get out. Okay, so once we're within 100 tons of that laden amount, that's where we're going to kick in a new little bit of logic. Okay, so as it pulls in random values and we get that 100-ton buffer there, then we want to start checking. We only want to give it 3 chances to pull cargo in that might allow us to fill up that 100-ton buffer. Okay, so at that point, we're probably looking at a looping structure to check and see, like, hey, are we within 100 tons of laden? Okay, cool. If we are, then let's check. If we do 3 guesses and we're not able to load any cargo up to that point, then we're going to leave it with 100 tons left over, or 80, 20 tons, something like that. We're just trying to close that gap to laden. If we can't, we're going to go ahead and say this boat's ready to go ahead and leave. It's safe to leave. Okay, but we want to, since we want to make sure this gets in and out as quickly as possible. If we don't find anything to close that gap within those 3 guesses, we just want the code to say, look, it's safe to leave. Go ahead. We're within our recommended weight. It's okay to go. But if you get something in that space that looks like it'll fit, we add in 20 more pounds, 20 more tons, 100 tons, and we're getting right up to it somewhere in that space. And those 3 guesses, we get to that point where we're like, hey, this looks good. I don't think we should do any more. I think we're going to be fine. Like 30 more pounds, I'm not going to get it probably. So let's just cut it right here. That'll work. It's fine. But we want to give it at least 3 guesses before we decide to just cut and say it's safe. Okay, so that might be the only part that I feel like might be a tiny bit confusing as far as how you're going to be running that. When you're done with this, whenever you've been able to run through all three of these classifications of these ships, provide weight, make sure you can get these ships out safely, then I'll need you to send 2 files to me if you're on Pythonista at least. That's going to be the main file, and that's going to be the, excuse me, ton calc file, which is the function that has everything already in it, as far as like, you know, the dictionary of the ship types, the calculation for what the dead weight's going to be for the ship, all those kind of things. Okay. There's not going to be a whole lot in that module. There's very little. And as I said to you before, I want to make sure we're not having issues with circular dependency. So that's why we only have one file that we're going to have inside that dictionary. Okay. Inside the dictionary, you're probably going to want to import random as well. I'm sorry, not the dictionary. Inside the module that you're going to be creating that's in the directory, you'll probably want to import random as well, just because you're going to have some random values that are coming in. And as I said previously, whenever you're using a dictionary, I'm just throwing this out there just for folks that are paying attention, the keys that you have that decides what you're going to be giving back, remember those usually get pulled in as a string. So if you're having a problem with random number values and then you're trying to compare them to the keys that you have in your dictionary, remember you need to change them over to a string so that they can be compared. Okay. I mean, you could do it backwards the other way, I suppose, as well. That's a possibility, but it might be easier just to turn your number into a string and then compare it at the dictionary level. Okay. When you're done with this, make sure I get those files or the whole project if you're working in PyCharm. And make sure that subject line for the email says one try final cargo ship. Okay, that's what I'm going to be looking for. This is due by 11:59 on Thursday on November 5th. Okay. Anytime after that, it is considered very late. And considering you guys got several days to work with this, it's open resource as far as look online. This is a, you're not going to be able to find this one online as a problem by itself. You might find pieces of it, but there's not anything in here like rock, paper, scissors, or some other function, other code that you might have had that just had a fix already for you out there. This one is all made right here. So pieces, maybe not the whole thing. You're not going to find the whole thing. Okay. So at this point, this is the whole final. Any questions, anything that I can clarify for you? I'll just open it up to everyone here. Anything at all. If you would just pop it into the chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourself, either way is fine.
So for the modules, is there a limit of modules? Modules are you supposed to have?
Should have at least one. Should have one.
Just one, right? Okay.
Yeah, at least one. If you decide that you want to make modules and you can make it work, I'm not really going to have a problem with that. But you should have main where it's going to start off, and then it should start pulling calculations from the module set up there called ton calc, which is going to be just assessing the cargo and the tonnage, and also supplying new cargo for you to check against the laden weight and trying to load that boat up to go back out again. Okay.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions? Anything at all? If you guys want to take a little moment to go back through and check on anything there, I am more than happy to let you guys have a little moment to go through it again. Any questions you have, I will try and take care of them as quickly as possible for you. if there's anything that is you're not quite sure about, that's what we want to talk about right now.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
So what's going to be the 1/3 by? Like, is it by the total weight of the boat, or is it compared to
Whenever the boat,
the cargo?
yeah, it's gonna, whenever the boat comes in, we're gonna assume that it's fully laden, like it's all the way up to its max. So the common weights, and as I said, I've simplified this quite a bit, but the common weights are 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 tons. So the laden weight is going to be 50,000, 100,000, or 200,000 tons. We're assuming they're arriving at the dockyards laden. They're already full. Okay, so that whenever we start pulling everything off of it and we check the dead weight, which is everything but the cargo in this instance. Dead weight usually does include the cargo, but just to make it easier for us, dead weight's going to be everything but the cargo. Okay. Dead weight is the crew, the ballast, the water, the fuel, everything but the cargo. Okay. And then we're going to start adding in cargo back on top of our dead weight. So we have that. We want to find out what that 3/10 is for 50,000, 3/10 for 100,000, 3/10 for 200,000. So we have our base value we can start at. And then how much can we add cargo wise until we're up to the laden value or very, very close within that 100-ton buffer of the laden weight? Does that make sense, Anita?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Anything else from anybody else?
So, oh, sorry.
I was just wondering what the dock tools directory is really for.
That's to, what is it for? Keep the module separate from the main file. Since a lot of the calculations are being handled outside in a different space. So you can call those to bring new information in if you're using the one where you're loading new cargo. So new cargo would be a function in that module of ton calc, or is it calc ton? I think I did ton calc, yeah. And then we also have the classes you can put in the main if you want to. That's fine. I'm not going to get on to you about that. If you feel like you want to put them inside of ton calc, I'm fine with that as well. Since we only have one module we're pulling from, there shouldn't have any issues with circular dependency. So if you wanted to move those over and keep some of those separate from where we're taking input from the user on main, that's fine. But I think I even said you can have these classes inside of the main file if you want to. What's the point? We're trying to simulate the aspects that we were working on previously. Really, we would have a large number of files inside of that directory. But since we're trying to make sure nobody has issues with circular dependency at this point until we can cover it a little bit better next week, just have one file in there. So you should be able to do the imports. The imports are going to be what I'm mostly looking at. Can you import that information without any trouble? Setting up classes, the instances for those classes, that kind of thing is mostly what I'm looking for. We're trying to emulate what we're looking for as far as assessing your ability to make these aspects of a project in Python.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything? If it's, I'm not sure about why we're doing X. Totally cool going over that with you. And maybe
For the so in the part on the bottom, it says, I don't understand the part where it says that the user should get random values that relate to the new cargo function.
Okay.
Um,
Let's see. Let me see where you're at here. The user should get random values that relate to the new cargo function. Yeah. So the new cargo function pulls these values right here. These values for 20-foot shipping container down to heavy stack 40-foot shipping containers. Those are all the values in the dictionary. And I want you to randomly choose different cargo from that dictionary. So very first one you might get would be a 20-foot shipping container. And you say, like, yep, add that in. We're good. We got plenty of space. So as soon as you say we're going to add that, it'll go back out to new cargo. It'll pick one of these things randomly. It might be another 20-foot shipping container. It could be a heavy stack of 40-foot shipping containers. And at that point, you need to be able to decide, all right, can I take an 800 more tons in, or am I going to have to wait until I can find a little lighter cargo? And if you can't take that 800 tons in, then you say, no, we can't load this. And it'll go back out and it'll check to see and get a random one, bring another random one over. So if you get within 100 tons of your laden weight, then it should start checking. All right, have we brought in one? Okay, yeah, we brought in one set of cargo. We either took it or we didn't. Okay, we're still within that 100 range. Maybe it was a 20-ton shipping container. Okay, we have 80 tons now that we can bring in. As long as we're getting 20 or 40-foot shipping containers, we can probably keep adding them. But we only want to check 3 times. Okay.
Yeah.
To a point where we're at, in that 100-ton buffer, we get to 60 and we didn't get another 40 within those 3 different pulls of new cargo. We're just going to say it's safe and send it out because we're running out of time. Okay.
Okay. And also for the laden weight, it says that we want to get as close as to the 100 tons possible. But how much does the
close that 100 tons as much as possible? But if you don't get that 100-ton buffer completely closed off, it's okay. We want to.
But what if it's like different type of a ship?
So that 100-ton buffer we're just making that the same for the 100 and the 200. For the 50,000 one, that one gets to be a little tough, right? So the 100-ton buffer is not going to work for it, and that's a good catch. Okay. For that one, I think, you know what, that you're absolutely right. For that, I think what we're going to have to do is add another little piece into this. So in this case, we have a 3/10 weight that's going to have to be taken off for dead weight. I think we're going to have to make one other change. Let's see here. So if we have that, and we're talking about the 100-ton buffer, we need to calculate a new buffer because I, for some reason, completely forgot about. No, I mean 50,000. You'll get up to 100 tons and you'll be fine because you're looking at 50,000 tons versus 200 and 100,000 tons. I think we can keep that as is and be okay because we're only talking about 100 tons. Okay. If you want to make it even easier on yourself, I was going to say this. You could see about it only bringing in randomly just these 2, the 10s and the 20s. If you wanted to have it also see about bringing in 100-ton one, because you're now within that 100-ton range and you want to try and fill it, you could have it start looking for just these 3 randomly. Okay. So if you wanted to do that and have another little function inside there, so it minimizes the number of random values because now we're in that 100-ton buffer, then you could probably have it set up where it just randomly picks these 3. Okay. And then if we don't get enough to fill up that 100, like if we get in that 100-ton buffer, we hit 20 first, well, that 100 tons is not going to be a viable option for us. So if we get 100 tons on the next round, on our second time through, well, we can't take that. So that's our second one down. We'll take another one and get our third one in. If that's another 10 or 20, we can probably take it just fine. But if it's another 100 tons, we get 100 tons again, we're going to have to say no to it again. But that's our third time now, and we're within 100 tons of our laden weight. So we need to go ahead and call it as safe and send it out. Does that make sense to you? That's something.
Oh, I was just confused because like of the 50,000, you know how
Right.
When the ship comes in, it says that it weighs like it's either 50,000, 100, or 200.
Right.
So what you're supposed to do is take the laden weight and the dead weight, right?
So yeah, you're going to take that laden weight, calculate the dead weight, which is going to be 3/10 of the laden weight. That's going to be how much we have to save for, the people running the thing, the fuel, the ballast, all that kind of stuff. So,
Okay.
much of that is basically not cargo. And then everything we're adding back in is just cargo.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's say for the 50,000, I guess that's like 15,000, I guess. Anyways, so we need to fill it up as much as we can to the 50,000, right?
That's right. So
Okay.
for instance, if we wanted to do some real quick calculations, if we take 50,000 and our 3/10 is going to be used in decimal form, how would we show that decimal form for 3/10, guys? What would that be?
0.3.
0.3, yeah. So we're going to say 50,000 times 0.3. That's 15,000 tons. Okay, so we can subtract that 50,000, and we know we have 35,000 tons that we're going to fill. So 100-ton buffer, we're going to have that in there pretty easily. Okay, so we can start loading up super heavy cargo. But the reason I want you to start with random numbers in there is because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll look for whatever cargo is close by and is heading to the same area. Okay, so if we have cargo that needs to go to China, it's all going to go into Shenzhen. It's all going to be stuff that needs to get back to that port. We have tons of stuff around the dockyard that could go onto that ship, or we also have priority stuff. But that's where I wanted to try and make it easier. I don't want you guys to have to sort through cargo manifests and things like that to figure out what you want to send back. We're just looking at tonnage, and that's it. Okay, so
Okay.
every time it comes back, and we're at the point now where we have we have 15,000, we can go 35,000, we can go to 35,000 tons. Let's start loading this thing up. That's where we're going to start randomly getting pieces from that dictionary of 20 foot, 40 foot, stack 20 foot, stack 40 foot, heavy stack 20 foot, heavy stack 40 foot. We should get random ones of that over and over again until we've loaded up the ship. And then when we get in that 100-ton buffer space, if we can't find something to fill that in within 3 chances, within 3 tries, we're going to send it out. Okay. So if we go over and we're like 60 tons is all the buffer we have, we're within that 100-ton buffer space. So we want to make sure we start counting those 3 chances to try and find that cargo. If we don't get it, we send it off.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. I was just making so just make sure that way get the what's it called, the other weight,
So you have the laden weight, which is going to be
that one.
the whole. Yeah, that's what it's going to come in as. We're just going to assume that they sent it off at its maximum weight. Anything that would have, I mean, it would have made it across the ocean just fine. But we want to make sure it makes it into the inlet and into the dock without running aground or, anything that would keep it from locking up the port. So we want to make sure that we send it back off again as close to laden as possible, but definitely not over.
Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, so the dead weight is the weight that does not include the cargo. So we use all we had. Yeah. So we need to. So there's gonna be like 3 choices of the cargo that you want to add to the thing, and if it goes over the laden weight, you don't accept it, right?
Yeah, if at any point in time it's going over the laden weight, we're going to have to say, you know what? No, we can't use this. Let's pull another random piece of cargo. So you're probably going to be using a set of looping structures for this. So you're going to have, let's just kind of do this together. And I know I said I wouldn't necessarily do this, but with this kind of setup, you don't really know when you're going to hit that 100-ton buffer. And you also don't know when you're going to be, I mean, you have 3 guesses, but you might hit that 100-ton, like max out that 100-ton buffer within 2 guesses, 1 guesses. So you don't really know when you should be done. So hopefully that helps you with the picking of what type of looping structure you want to use for those. Okay. Since you don't know when you're going to be finished with either side of that. Okay. So hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit with that. Any other questions? Any other pieces you want to make sure you feel comfortable with? Anything at all?
I have a question about the user input.
Okay.
So when the boat comes in, then we pick whatever weight we choose from the 50 ton to the 100 and all that.
Right.
So for user input, do they decide, are they deciding the amount of cargo they want? And then from there, how much cargo they want is going in.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, the 100-ton or what is exactly the user is inputting?
So the user is going to pick between the 3 different instances, basically, like the 3 different types of ships we're going to see. So they're going to say like, okay, this one's a 50K ship, this one's 100K, this one's 200K. That means they're these 3 different sizes. So you'll want to make sure that you're calculating your information correctly. You're getting your dead weight for 50K, 100K, 200K. Now those are usually going to be the same amount every time you do it. So you could hard code that dead weight amount into each one of those when you make your instance, or you could set up something that will make it easier for you later on, and you can calculate that every time. Either way, it's fine. You're often, if this goes beyond the prototype stage, you would be wanting to have something that calculated that, because you're not always going to have a straight, oh, this is a 50K ton ship. You're probably going to get a lot of derivatives in between. These are just like average amount, weights for small, heavy, and super heavy cargo carriers. Okay. So either way you want to do it, I didn't specify, so it's okay. If you want to just make that part of the instance when you make the instance of each one of these ships, it's fine, because dead weight is going to be part of that. If you decide that you're going to make it something that it calculates it on the fly as you do it, I'm fine with that too. Okay. So just keep that in mind. The dead weight is going to be 3/10 of 50,000, 3/10 of 100,000, 3/10 of 200,000. It's basically 30% of your total weight. Your laden weight is going to be dead weight. Is that completely confusing for you, or how do you feel?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. So do you want me to go over it in a different way then, or do you think you got it?
Possibly going in a different way.
Okay. So the whole process that your user should go through is you have a ship coming in, and you need to decide which version it is. Okay. And we want to test each of these, so we're going to go through the code 3 times. Okay. So if we want to start off with small, or we want to go off start off with standard, then we're starting with 50,000. Okay. We get that 50,000 ton ship in, we unload it to dead weight. So now we have our 3/10, which is going to be 15,000. We know we have 35,000 tons we can fill. So we're going to start bringing in cargo from that new cargo function, which is going to be all of these pieces right here. Okay. So I'm going to randomly get cargo in, and it may take a little bit because we have some that are pretty small, like 10 tons over and over and over again. That doesn't add up very quickly, but we should get some 300 tons, 100 tons, 800-ton cargo things, and we should be able to move through it fairly quickly. The 200,000 ton ship, if you want to make your life easier, you can have it specify, like, you know what, on those 200,000 ton ships, I really only want it to bring in the 100 to 800 ton cargo pieces. I didn't specify that in here, but I didn't say you couldn't do it either. So if you want to make your life a little easier, and then once you get within that 100-ton range, then you could start looking for the 20-foot to 20 stack cargo shipping containers. Okay. If you guys want to make that decision and do that, and you went a little bit above and beyond, that might even, if everything else is working great, I could see that as a little extra credit, possibly. I didn't add that in there. Don't really want extra credit, but if you went above and beyond, I don't see why I wouldn't do that for you. So as soon as you got your 100-ton buffer filled in as much as you can, we've gone through 3 different tries, looking out in the dockyard, trying to find anything else to fit onto the ship. If we can't close that 100-ton buffer as much as possible within 3 tries, we say it's safe to ship out, and we end that round for that ship. We're going to start the program again, and this time we're going to grab a different ship. We're going to grab a heavy or a super heavy, but we want to make sure this works for every single type of ship. Okay. Does that help you a little bit, Anita, or you want me to try again?
Okay, let me see if I get this right. So there's a ship coming in. and the user is going to guess how heavy it is. That's not the dead weight.
Yeah, we're just
Or are they going to?
getting that full weight. We're getting the laden weight, which is the full weight, the dead weight plus all the cargo as it's coming in. That's the weight we're going to get. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And are they choosing between heavy cargo, small cargo, or medium-sized cargo?
Yep.
Or is that also going to be random too?
No, they're choosing.
Then wouldn't it be easy? Wouldn't it be easy to guess if they know like the dead weight is 3/10 of the total? So
Yep.
then
Saying you can either have it calculated or you can have it hard coded in when you do the instance.
okay.
Yeah, either way is fine. I'd like for
Okay,
you to calculate it just because I know later on with this kind of prototype setup, you're going to want to calculate it since those weights are not going to be strictly 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. So it would be better if you calculated it, but you know that what that value is supposed to be. So if you want to add it into the instance, I'm okay with that. Because I did say the function that finds the dead weight value in the module ton calc should be called dead weight. I'm okay with you guys just feeding it in the instance. I did want you to make a function there, but I'm okay with you guys calculating it and just using it in the instance too. That's okay.
So what is it? The user is like supposed to not know how much a heavy cargo is or a small cargo, right?
Well, they know because as it's coming in, they can see like, oh, okay, this is a small, so we're going to test this against a small cargo vessel or standard, and then we're going to test this against a heavy and a super heavy. So we just want to be able to test it against those different amounts, those different weight amounts. So that's really all that's happening. As soon as they come in, select the class you want to check the cargo against and make sure you go through each one of them. So you can start off with whichever you like. That could be standard, then go to super heavy, and then come back to heavy if you want to. But we should be able to take these different amounts, these different laden amounts, and get right back to it after we unload it. We want to try and get back to it as quickly as, or as closely as possible. So that's not random, that's chosen. Okay. The only thing that's random is when we load it up and we're looking for cargo to load back on the ship. That's where we're going to randomly get different values here. And even if you decide to constrict the number, the amount or the dictionary that we're going to be getting from, if you're just like, hey, I've got a 200,000 ton vessel here, I got to fill it up with heavy stuff, and you wanted to restrict that to the 100 ton to 800 ton packages, I don't see any problem with that. But once you get to that 100 ton buffer, you're going to have to switch it up, because then everything you're going to get, you're going to have one choice that could fill in that 100 ton buffer, and you might have gone over that 100 tons. So you need to start including the 20 and 40 foot shipping containers, those single ones. So if you'd like to handle it that way, I'm cool with that. Otherwise, just make sure we get up to that 100 ton buffer. And then if you want to have it randomly select from all of them that are there, that's fine. After 3 chances to try and find some cargo to fill that buffer, if we don't get it, we send it out. Okay. Any other question? Anything I can help clear up for you? Anything you feel like you're not quite understanding? Okay. At this point, if you feel like you understand, if you can just give me a little thumbs up, you feel like you're ready to go ahead and start the final, just give me that thumbs up and you're free to go. If you do have any questions, email me, get back to me. I'll send a reply as quickly as possible. So far, I've seen Joe, Joseph, Astul, Anita. Just have Madeline and Donovan. If y'all who have given me a thumbs up are good to go, you're free to go. You can start working on this, and I'll just hang out for anybody else who wants to ask some more questions. Okay, Donovan, I see your thumbs up. Thank you. Madeline, are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I can hang out and answer any questions if you need.
Actually, what did you say you were missing from me?
What's that?
What did you say I needed to send you?
I didn't say anything specifically right now that you needed to send me right now, Donovan.
Okay.
Yeah, just for this, I just need the final before 11:59 on Thursday.
Cool.
Okay. And this is 15% grade for the trimester. Just throwing that out there. So it can definitely help if you can get everything working. Okay.
Sir, is it possible at all for you to show us a working copy of how this is supposed to go, or would that be like too much of an answer to the final project? Like you don't show us the code at all, you just like give us an example of how it should look or work.
I would say what do you say on Wednesday? I can show you guys a working version of what I'm looking for. And I can show you the output, like what it's asking for from the user, and then I can show you the output, and then that'll give you plenty of time on Wednesday as well as on Thursday to shape it up if it's not in the same kind of condition that I have it in. If you want, I could do that.
All right.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say definitely don't wait. Jump on this as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'll be working on the calculations like today.
Okay.
And then input will probably come later.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, go ahead and jump on that, and I'll show you guys how it should look on Wednesday. Okay. Well, we got about 8 minutes left of class. Is there anything in particular you guys are kind of looking at and maybe unsure of?
I'm trying to think. I mostly asked all my questions already. So I think I have a pretty good understanding of how this is still.
Okay.
And what I need.
Okay. Madeline, are you kind of in the same spot?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what then, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. And if you do have any questions, email me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And we'll go from there. Okay.
Okay, bye, sir.
All right. Bye, y'all.